I'm going to explain what to anticipate on the first visit. The basis of the first visit primarily is to gather some data. First through a health history, then we'll go through and get some objective data so we can make some decisions based on information and you as a patient, your goals from care. As a chiropractor, I'm concerned about people's structural health, much like a dentist is concerned about your dental health. And chiropractic is probably more in line with dentistry than any other kind of healthcare provider. Because it's not whether or not people have structural problems, everybody does. Unless you grew up in a bubble, you're going to have structural problems. Just from the activities of daily living. It's kind of like driving a car. You drive your car around, it's going to get out of alignment just driving around. Sometimes you hit the curb, sometimes you get rear-ended, and your car gets further out of alignment. That's the same thing with our structural bodies. So the time, but it's a concern is when do you start taking care of these problems? Well, the problem is we're not aware of it, and usually people are coming to us when they're symptomatic with the back or neck pain. Well, structural problems affect what are called nerve roots that exit between the vertebrae. That nerve root is actually a bundle of nerves or a bundle of wires. Some of those wires we know of are the sensory nerves. That's for pain, touch, hot, cold. And to trigger the sensory nerves, it typically occurs with inflammation. So if you have an unstable joint and you overload that joint beyond its capacity, it's going to become inflamed and it's going to trigger these pain receptors. And you feel it as a form of back pain or neck pain or wherever it might be. You may rest or take an anti-inflammatory or ice the area and you can get the swelling to calm down and you feel better. It didn't solve the problem, but at least you got some relief until you overload that joint again, then it flares up. So that's why typically with these musculoskeletal problems you have ups and downs. Now eventually it catches up with you because these structural problems, much like a car out of alignment where the tires are going to wear out prematurely, the joint starts to wear down, primarily that pad, and then finally you get the bone rubbing on bone and you start developing bone spurs, and we're going to call it degenerative arthritis at that time. That doesn't happen overnight. That may take 20 or 30 years, but eventually that's what occurs. So you want to try to take care of your structural health like your teeth so you can catch things early and hopefully keep your spine healthy throughout your lifetime, because that directly correlates to how your body functions and your quality of life. So that's why the sensory system is not the best parameter to judge things. Well, and we do what's called a neurologic scan. We look at the two other components of the nervous system, one of which is called the motor nerves, which go to the muscles. Well, the motor nerves go to the adjacent muscles, and when they're irritated, they become hyperexcitable, meaning they're going to be firing too much. So that muscle gets bombarded with that impulse to contract, and it'll tighten up, which is probably a good adaptation to try to splint this unstable joint. You just feel it as neck tightness or back tightness, whatever it might be, and you may get a massage or put heat on the muscle and get it to calm down, but oftentimes it's not the muscle at fault, it's the nerve to the muscle that's being irritated that's causing it to be tight. So to evaluate the motor system, we use these sensors. They're called surface EMG sensors. And what they do is they pick up the activity of the muscles, and we get readings all the way down your spine, and they'll say, hey, we got a muscle that's firing above normal. More importantly, it'll tell me where in the spine that irritation is coming from. Then the other study we do is we look at how the autonomic part of the nervous system could be affected. Well, the autonomics not only control your organs and glands, it also controls your body temp by controlling your blood vessels and how they dilate and constrict. Well, the temp on either side of the spine should be within a normal range if the autonomic is functioning properly. So we use this unit that has thermocouplers on either side, and it compares the temp on either side of the spine. So we run this up the back. If there's any significant difference in temp at any point, it'll tell us, and we're going to go, aha, the autonomics being affected. So this is where someone may have a structural issue in your back. They may not be experiencing back pain, but maybe it's affecting the autonomic nerves, and in your lower back, let's say it's affecting the bowels. Well, the bowels are a muscle. Well, they're not working effectively now, and maybe you're backed up. Or maybe it's a mid-back affecting the nerves to your stomach, and your stomach's secreting too much acid. Or you may have shortness of breath or elevated heart rate. Where in the neck, it primarily affects immune organs. So people with neck problems tend to be more prone to getting sick or allergies. So this way, we can gather this information And then we may decide to take x-rays so we can see what the structure of the spine looks like. And like a dentist, we can see if there's any decay. That tells me, one, how long the person's had a problem, and two, what we can expect from care, and do I need to do any modification in my approach based on that information. Then we can make a game plan of what's the best objective for you, and then we go forward from that point on.